welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I'm Mark Slake, your host, and joined with me, as always, is Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, nerds. It's
And
almost time.
I know. I was about to say, you guys already know what we're getting excited for. And, of course, the lovely Julie Jones.
Hello, hello.
So we got kind of an interesting show for you this morning. But before we get to kind of what we're mostly talking about, we're going to I shouldn't say kill, but we're going to take care of some of our what you should be watching segments. And do some
I don't know. We might be killing one of them.
Brendan already has some choice words about a show we're going to review. But anyway, we're going to do that first. But the topic of today's show is talking about who is Enola Holmes and the best adaptations of Sherlock Holmes. And I will go ahead and let our audience know that nothing will ever compete with the Great Mouse Detective.
I agree.
Anyway, but like anything that we talk about, we have to start off with something really, really funny. And I want to bring the article up of something that happened this week. It's perfect for this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. It's one of those things where, of course, this actually happened in the real world. And, of course, the guy got away with it, so to speak. Okay, fine. So here's what happened. A man has been charged for fraud after he sought out more than $6 million in the Paycheck Protection Loan Program using for his employee names and the name of his company, Game of Thrones characters. Yes, you heard that right. He applied using characters from Game of Thrones. So this is kind of the full story. Tristan Bishop of Garner, North Carolina, is facing charges of wire fraud. Anyway, he submitted the fraudulent loan applications for 14 companies through 2020, including companies called Khaleesi LLC, The Night's Watch LLC, and White Walker LLC. And to support the applications, the indictment says that this guy made an untrue statement about the company's employees and expenses. Really, you don't say. Anyway, yeah.
Buy that obsidian. Shit gets expensive.
Now here's where it really got bizarre. He sought about $6.1 million through this program. He was awarded $1.7 million. I don't know who's more to blame, the IRS or 2020 or what, but seriously, White Walker LLC, Khaleesi LLC, I mean, Game of Thrones, one of the most popular programs out there over the last decade.
Yeah, but you're trusting some cellar dweller at IRS or the Treasury Department has actually seen anything in pop culture in the last 30 years?
See, I kind of go the opposite. I think they are like the people who have no social life living in their mom's basement who are on Reddit making comments about these shows and should automatically know.
See, the reason why I say that is because we had this guy who was we had this guy who was a cellar dweller from NSA come out to Hawaii when I was stationed there. And this dude needed help. Like he had no clue about how to dress himself, anything in pop culture. Like he just couldn't associate with people on a normal level. And So I'm associating them with that.
Well, and I will give you that to the point of if you've ever served in the military, you've come across one of those people. They've been in your unit. They are the weak link. But seriously, people are struggling, and White Walker LLC might have gotten $1.7 million. Now, on the one hand, I think that some loans might need to have been approved because you got to rebuild the Night's Watch. If you saw the end of Game of Thrones,
yeah, that wall's looking pretty rough.
I know Jon Snow needs the money, but yes. The worst part about this is the government was only able to recoup part of the money. They didn't even get all of it. So I guess he'll get to, if he gets to survive all the legal fees or whatever, or makes a plea deal, then he'll at least get to keep part of it once he gets out of jail. So there you go. And what did we learn today, kids? Don't use fake names from pop culture. You're trying to defraud the government. So now, there's no confirmation that this actually happened. However, if the loans got approved for using Lannister names, that I could buy.
Well, what you're telling me is I shouldn't apply for a loan using as a veteran using the name Captain Jack Harkness.
I would never tell you that's wrong. But anyway.
Apparently, I'm doing my impersonation of Mike Pence because there's a damn fly in here.
Actually, I thought this was one of the best jokes that I heard about that debate, although we don't talk politics. Oh, I think we just lost Julie. We'll get her back here in a moment. But one of the best comments was, man, that Jeff Goldblum is everywhere, even in a vice presidential debate. I'm like, kudos to you, sir, for knowing that pop culture reference.
Oh, and did you even see the one where they zoom in and the fly is actually Jeff Goldblum's open shirt picture from Jurassic Park?
Nice.
That was pretty good. I was like, all right, that's Photoshop for the win right there.
Well, now I want an episode of The World According to Jeff Goldblum where he is the fly of a presidential debate. So anyway, one last thing I'll say about this week's Side of the Apocalypse as we try to get Julie back here. If you actually applied for a loan using Tyrion Lannister's name, yes, your motto has to be, Lannister always pays his debts. I think you're allowed to at least get some money from the government.
But you might only get half of it.
What are you saying? Brothel expenses aren't covered under the tax write-offs.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, we'll get Julie back here in a moment, and then we're going to start talking about what we're going to be talking about. All right. Apparently, Skynet.
Here she comes.
There we go.
Even Skynet can't keep Julie down.
Julie, can you hear us?
You've muted yourself.
Oh, I think I might have actually done that. Julie, can you hear me? Julie? Okay. Julie, can you hear us? All right.
You muted yourself again.
I didn't mute myself.
No, Julie. She muted herself. There you go. Now talk, Julie.
Julie, can you hear us? Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Like I said, Skynet definitely.
I think Julie just gave Zoom the stink eye.
Well, anyway, we'll continue to work on the sound. Let me take a look here real quick, folks. Julie, can you hear us? Well, here's what happens.
Not.
Here's what happens when you start doing things live. We're going to turn into an episode of the IT Crowd. It's Zoom on. That's a great show to actually go back and start watching. I actually started binge watching that not too long ago. I was like, I've been going through some of the British TV stuff that's still left on Netflix. I think now that's kind of moving to like BritBox now that they have their own like streaming content. But anyway, okay, we got to try to get Julie back. We apologize for everything, but while we're going to do that, we're going to switch around something we would normally talk about at the end of the podcast. So, Brendan, you were telling me about this new beer on tap at Craft and Growler.
Yeah, I got a new IPA on tap. It's an American IPA with Simcoe, Azaka, and Equinox hops. So it's very tropical, very fruity. Nice, like amber ruby color to it. Um, easy drinking, 7%. So it'll get you
All
there.
right.
Get it done quick.
Julie, can you hear us? Hmm? I think they're having trouble with the audio.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
Okay, give us 1 second, everybody. We're not going to quit, but we just got to take care of some technical difficulties. Um, Julie, can you hear us at all? Okay.
That answers that. You want to go into our review of Utopias while she tries to figure that
That's
out?
what we're going to do. Give me 1 second, everybody.
Okay.
So what else do you guys have on tap? I know it's a big college football weekend.
So for our stuff, I've got our Kolsch, our Hazy IPA, our Hefeweizen, and our Blood Orange Goes. And then next week we'll be debuting a Mexican lager. And as far as everything else on tap, God, we've got 30 guest taps. I got some great stuff from Great Raft Brewing in Shreveport. Let me pull up our tap list, and then I can just tell you all what's on there, so get you some of the highlights if the internet will. Yes, I'm over 18. Bite me. Okay, let's see.
All right. Julie may
So
have switched to a different device.
we've got a cherry lime slushy from 903. We have a michelada from Untitled Art. They're an interesting brewery. Their entire business model is all of their beers are collaborations with other breweries. They don't do everything they do is a collaboration.
Cool. Well, I'm going to interrupt you right there.
Sure.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to try, we're going to do a quick review on the Amazon show Utopia, which came out a couple weeks ago. Give me 1 second before we do that. We're going to try one more thing. See if we can fix the audio with Julie. Anyway, new show with John Cusack, Rainn Wilson, a bunch of other Sasha Lane called Utopia hit Amazon a couple weeks ago. And basically what it's about is this graphic novel / comic that was also kind of a hidden story and gives clues to a character in her own little hero story, so to speak. And, excuse me. Well, let's just get right to it. It was interesting, to say the least. That's I know you kind of trashed it, Brendan, and we're writing on.
I hated every character but two. The only two characters I didn't hate were the little girl, because she had more balls and brains than all of the quote unquote heroes, and the girl that got shot. Like, she was the only smart one of the whole group, and they shoot her at the end of the second episode. I was like, and she's like, and the stupid freaking reasoning for this quote unquote hero shooting this other girl is like, a group can only have one leaders, blah blah blah. Are you kidding me? So you're going to get everybody else to follow you by shooting their friend in the face? Like, I'm sorry, but if somebody shot you in the face, Marcus, and my whole thing would be plotting to kill them. Like, I wouldn't be sitting there going along with everything she said. I'd be like, okay, as soon as I get that gun away from her, she's gonna die.
Right. So I like the concept of what they were doing. I don't know if it was delivered well. I think
I like the idea behind the story. I just think the dialogue and the characters all sucked.
I don't know if I necessarily think that all the characters sucked. I mean, like the main character Jessica Hyde, played by Sashi Lang.
Yeah, she doesn't need to stay alive.
No, see, I disagree. I actually liked her because she does soften up a little bit. She realizes she needs these other people. But at the same time, why is it that every story we have always ends with somebody trying to reshape the world or make everybody or come with some kind of master race, and this is the way that we're going to do it. We're going to fix humanity. Because that's what this story really boiled down to, is some diabolical plot. And then the person, you know, who...
And by the way, much like Thanos, with, oh, we're just going to take half of the people away. First of all, that solves nothing. It just creates all new problems.
Right.
And second of all, it's a temporary solution, because guess what? Even if they were, if John, what's his face, Cusack said, they'll be sterile for 3 generations. Okay, well, in 4 generations, from 1978, when I was born, to now, the world population has more than doubled. So in 3 generations, which is what, 50 years? Okay, it's just going to start all over again.
Right.
So it's just, it's like, it's my master plan is to delay the inevitable for half a century. Ooh, you're a freaking crazy and scary villain. I mean,
well,
come on. So come up with better stories.
But again, it's, I always come down to it. It's hilarious. Anytime there's some storyline about remaking the world or we're going to have a master race, I always come back to Sean Connery and Dr. No, and that one great line, world domination, the same old dream. Because that's what it is. And I won't go too far into say that shouldn't be the storyline for everything, because it's a tale as old as time. You're always going to have men who want to control the world, okay, whether there's some secret organization or want to create a master race. I mean, that idea never truly goes away. But the issue, too, is I also feel like we've seen this story where you come up with, there's a scientist that comes up with something that's supposed to be good, and then, of course, you get somebody that wants to manipulate it and use it as a weapon, or, use it somehow to remake society. So, and then, of course, it's some guy, oh, but we're going to get rich doing it. Really? Because I feel like we keep seeing that story so much now that it just becomes simplistic.
And honestly, we don't need an Amazon story with a $1 billion budget to tell us this story. All we have to do is just read the story about the guy who bought EpiPens.
Right. Julie, can you hear us?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay.
Yay! It's fixed.
Skynet, you will not defeat Julie Jones today.
That's
Although
right.
I will say, okay, I'm going to amend my earlier statement. There was one other character that I think didn't completely suck, and that was Rainn Wilson's doctor.
Right.
Because he's just a normal dude trying to do the right thing.
Right.
In some really screwed up circumstances, and he has, for the most part, the appropriate reaction to those screwed up circumstances.
Right. Again, I like the concept of having a graphic novel or a comic book with hidden clues, and you're trying to figure it out. So you basically
like a comic book. A comic book is the center point of an actual real world conspiracy. That's cool. I just thought, I don't know, was it just me, or was John Cusack kind of lame as a villain?
He does. Here's the problem. As much as we love John Cusack, and even if your career has kind of fallen short a little bit where you're doing these be-like movies, you're not a villain. You don't make a good villain. You're going to be creepy at best. And while he was kind of funny as he's duct taped at the end, in the last episode, like, you got to take my thumb, you're funny. But I don't look at you and take you seriously.
He came off more as annoying than he did sinister.
Yeah. Okay, you know what character you played that I would believe for world domination? Yeah, Grosse Point Blank. I mean, Morton Blank. That's I could believe that more than you doing this, and then what's your purpose for today? And then you're trying to justify the fact that you're willing to infect lots of people or kill them, and we're going to, because the whole point boils down to is, well, there's too many people in the world, So we've got to come up with a way to where we're not going to have children for 3 generations. And now you've turned into that great sci-fi movie called Children of Men.
Which
so it's
we've already done, and that was dealing with the aftermath and the fact that the first baby born since the humans went sterile. So it was just like I don't know. Just so many things about that show annoyed me. It's like, it was funny. What's funny was I told you that I hated that show, and then Marcus texts back, well, I'm only on the 2nd episode, and I really like this blonde girl. And I'm like, I text back.
10 minutes later,
she gets her head blown off, and I'm like, hey, how'd that work out for you?
Right. They always kill the pretty one. Yeah, that didn't really work out. I do want a 2nd season of this series for 2 reasons. One, I feel like you have more to tell, and there's because the first season is kind of underwhelming, there's a greater story and so much more happening that's I feel like it's necessary to make it all better. But then again, if you have to keep making more seasons to make your first season better, then I think there's a problem.
Well, there's a lot of shows that their first season struggle where it goes on to be a much better show. I mean, Star Trek: The Next Generation comes to mind. The first season was very uneven and choppy, and
right.
It got much better 2nd, 3rd season, so on. But I just don't know that I care enough to watch a 2nd season. Like Star Trek, I was already emotionally invested in because I had watched Star Trek with my uncle and my cousin from a young age, and I knew Kirk, and Spock and Sulu and the rest. And so, I was already very invested with the idea of Star Trek. There's nothing about this, the whole tagline is "Stay alive, Jessica Hyde." I'm like, yeah, I don't care if she dies. So,
yeah. And you kind of feel like that once you know the master plan, it's like she's just a girl looking for her dad, and it's unnecessary. Yeah. I do like Sasha Lane as an actress, and the reason I comment on her is she is someone that fell into acting by accident. Years ago, we had to do a press screening of this film. Her very first movie was a film called American Honey with Shia LaBeouf. It was raw. It was intense. The director used basically regular people and kind of let them improvise and everything. You liked Sasha's intensity so much as this runaway girl who was forced to take care of her siblings and then goes on the road with these band of other misfits who are selling magazines door to door. And it's about this coming of age story for her. She was great. Okay. And it's actually one of the movies that I do praise Shia LaBeouf as being, a decent actor. And she has done very well. I know, Julie, you hated the last Hellboy movie, and I kind of agree with you. It was not very good, but she was good in it. She was actually one of the right.
And let me clarify. I don't have any problems with the actors and actresses in this show. I just don't think they were given very good. I'm not telling you to go on Twitter and hammer these actors and actresses like people did to the poor girl who played Rose in Star Wars. It's not her fault that the character sucked. It was written poorly. Don't blame the actress when they're handed a turd burger. Don't blame them for eating it for a freaking paycheck. Blame the production company, blame the writers. But it's just the actors and actresses. Yeah, I've seen them in other things and they're good. It's just
the reason I praise her in this is with them being limited in story and dialogue and everything. I think she turned what could have been a disaster into something good. Hello there, fellow nerds. I'm Marcus Blake, the editor and producer of That Nerd Show, and we need your help. That's right, we need your support. Like any news outlet, we rely on advertising and donations to keep the lights on. To be the greatest show in this universe, we need funding, and that's where you come in. Like most artists out there, we actually have a Patreon account, and we're asking for donations. But we're not just asking for you to give us money. We actually have stuff that we're going to be giving away if you donate. So we'll be uploading more and more videos to our Patreon account from YouTube, from our daily news to interviews with celebrities to gaming videos and all of our other individual shows that we are doing here in 2020. But to keep us going, we need a little bit of funding. And again, that's where you come in. So it can be as little as $1. $1 makes all the difference in the world. And you can do anywhere from $1 to $3 to $5, all the way up to $500. And we're going to be giving stuff away for your donations. So you could get some Nerd Power wristbands or any other wristbands from our series of wristbands that we're creating for nerds. You can get cool retro gaming t-shirts from our Nerd Swag shop if you make a donation of $20 or more. You can even get advertising on our website or within our videos if you make a purchase or donate $50 or more dollars. We have different tiers, like most artists. Want that new video game that's coming out this year? You want to be playing the same video game we are as we're reviewing it? Hey, you can do that with a $100 donation. Are you looking to get a new console before the year is out? Hey, $500 and you can get an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, or even a Nintendo Switch. It just takes a little bit to help us. As little as $1 per video that we do. And we're going to have a variety of videos that you can help support. So if you like our content, if you like everything that we do as nerds, from honest conversations about pop culture to great celebrity interviews to wacky and fun gaming videos, then help support us on our Patreon account. You can check us out at patreon.com/thatnerdshow. You can check us out at patreon.com/that. Take 3. Go to patreon.com/thatnerdshow and make your donation today. Even if it's just $1. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you and stay nerdy. Does that make us identify with her character a lot more? Probably not, and it doesn't matter. But again, I want to know more now that she's gotten back to Utopia. The one character that I really, really loved, and I thought Rainn Wilson did a great job. I thought he was one of the bright spots when, the kids were kind of annoying. But the guy that played Arby, the assassin, played by Chris Denham, who's been in a lot of different things, and he's always that quiet. I'm not going to always say creepy, but kind of, intense character. He played that beautifully. He is, to me, he's kind of the true hero, as someone, he knows what he is. He knows he was created, but he is forging his own hero's path and saying that this is what I believe in, and I'm turning away from what I was raised to, do, so to speak.
And then John Cusack's son, all I could see was Edward Nygma. Because it was the Riddler from Gotham.
Oh, that's right. It was that actor. Oh my God, I couldn't figure out where I recognized him. But then again, I could never truly get into.
I kept waiting for him to look in the mirror and see a different version of the Riddler.
Right. Well, here's the thing. The concept of Utopia is great, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't check it out. It's not the best series on Amazon by far. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've got a lot of great, well-written shows. I think people should definitely get into The Man in the High Castle now that series is done. And of course, Brendan and I could talk Bosch with you all night long. But for me, it's not quite as bad as you say. I would honestly give it like a 6 or a 7. Like, it's okay, and you should check it out. But again, I think
probably want to have a bottle of wine on hand.
Yeah, that's
big one.
I will be drinking during this. Yes, but I need a season 2 to kind of round out this story and see where it goes. Especially for the conspiracy dude, who, a little bit of a spoiler, turned out to play, whose literal name is in the series is Wilson Wilson. He was funny, and I liked him, and then he turns to easily be manipulated by the bad guys at the end. Like, no, it's okay, and I'm gonna work. It's like, dude, you got played by the bad guy. Okay.
Yeah,
If there's one character now that I could see that, like, if he died, I wouldn't feel any sympathy for it's him now.
Oh, I'd probably cheer.
Yeah. So
Like I felt
again,
bad for him when they cut out his eye with a spoon.
Oh my god.
Now I'm just like, I wish they had taken your other one.
Brendan, now be honest. When they did that, were you thinking to yourself,
Alan Rickman, baby.
Thank you. You knew where I was going.
Why is spoon, cousin? Why not a axe or lance? 'Cause it's dull, it'll hurt more, you twit.
I'm gonna cut your heart out with a spoon. Anyway, but like I said, I teeter on about a 6 or a 7. It's just okay. Brendan, I know you gave it a much lower grade.
I gave it a 5, but I really considered giving it a 4 or a 3.
So there you go. It's average to just okay. It's not great, but if you're looking for something new to watch, go ahead and check it out. Whether you get to
honestly, if that little blonde girl hadn't blown that dude away while everybody was staring around acting like a bunch of morons, I probably would have given it a 3. But the little blonde girl saved them.
Nice. Okay, fair enough. And that's been this particular segment on what you should be watching. All right. For our next thing, we are going to dive into The Boys, which just wrapped up season 2 last night. And yes, Amazon does this thing now where it's an episode from week to week. They don't just drop everything, assholes.
Yeah.
So I will be the first. I will say this: I never finished season 1 last year. I couldn't quite get into it, and I went on to other things. So I finally binge watched all of it leading up to the last episode, and I am hooked. I want more. And I got to give a shout out to Brendan, a friend of ours, James Chapman, who's also an illustrator and working on my latest book cover. We were talking about this last night. If The Boys does one thing, it truly makes everybody look terrible. It's hard to tell who the bad guys are, But anyway, but I love the fact that Carl Urban is the ultimate anti-hero in The Boys.
So somebody posted a great question on Facebook. It was, what if Deadpool met Billy Butcher? How would the conversation go? And I said, well, Billy Butcher would say something like, well, if it ain't the red-suited cunt. And Deadpool would go, hey, Dr. McCoy got a potty mouth.
Good Lord, I can't wait. If somebody hasn't done it yet, I will make a meme of him looking at, his not son, but the kid he's going to take care of, giving the best advice you can ever to a child. Don't be a cunt.
There's a meme going around of they were doing, like, the cast was doing the press junket, and somebody was like, who's most like their character on the show? And everybody turns to the guy that plays Homelander, and everybody's like, wait, what?
And I got to say this about Anthony Starr. That's a very big departure considering his last series. A couple series ago was Banshee on Cinemax, which was really good. And you can actually check that out on Amazon. I believe it's on Prime. But he's basically a guy who went to prison and then changed his identity and becomes the sheriff of a town, because that's the identity you take over.
Last place they're going to look for an ex-con.
Yeah. He was great in that series. That ran for 4 seasons, so I encourage people to watch that plus 40 episodes. But getting back to the Boys, this is a show that I do find fantastic. I didn't when it first started out, but after I had a chance to really binge watch and kind of looking at all the characters, and of course you have to have a big mega church in there that's like Scientology, trying to control everything. So
it's pretty outstanding, actually. And the best, what I really love about this show is it's so over the top. Like, they're like, just when you think they've reached a line they won't cross, they just jump straight over it with a broom. And like, if you were queasy during Kill Bill with all the blood and the blood spurting and the Kill Bill movies, don't watch
Yeah,
this
don't
because you're
watch
just gonna
this.
lose your lunch.
Right.
I mean, the scene. I don't know if you've seen this yet. I can't remember if it's in episode 7 or you haven't seen it, Julie. I don't want to ruin it because you haven't seen
I
it.
don't
But
care. I'll forget.
there's
I have
there's
the
a scene
memory
in
span
it.
of
There's
a
a scene
goldfish.
where everybody's testifying before Congress,
Right.
and just their heads start exploding, and like superheroes, good guys, bad guys, like everybody, like senators, congressmen, people in the audience, just their heads start exploding. There's this one soup that can explode heads, and you're not quite sure who it is until the very end, and that I'm not going to spoil. But
And we're not going to spoil that. We won't
Yeah.
spoil that. But it's
But,
it's a good plot.
so, but I mean, and people are trying to get out of this room, and they're just slipping on all over the blood, and they're just all traumatized and covered in blood. It's just, and it's got like some kind of, I don't want to say, it's not quite like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where they're doing that happy it's got that really happy song while
Come a little
while they're
closer.
yeah, they got to come a little closer going while they're killing everybody. But it's kind of in a similar vein, and yeah, it's crazy as hell. It's just so off the wall, but it
Well,
actually fits in the universe. It's not just
By the
doing it for
way-
the sake of doing it.
I love how the fact that they keep bringing up Billy Joel songs is like the ultimate metaphor. Little hidden metaphors throughout the show. I think if you, again, getting back to the queasy nature of this show, I think the character Huey kind of said it best at the very last episode where he's trying to get a job with a congressman, and she's like, "You don't want to go with your team?" "No, I kind of want to do. I'm still going to try to bring down the evil corporation. I just don't want to do something that's so much blood and guts." But okay, see,
Like
season one.
when they drove a speedboat through a whale.
Oh my God! And then they just end up inside the whale because that's a thing.
And the Deep is just horrified because it's one of his buddies.
Do you have a feeling that the guys who brought this to life, or who, I don't know who created the comic, I don't know that much about it, but do you feel like they just kept watching Kill Bill Part 1 and 2 over and over, and like, I think there's a
I think they watched Super Friends intermixed with Kill Bill while taking high amounts, large quantities of hallucinogenics.
You know what? That works. Sometimes that's how you get the best ideas.
By the way, it's Garth Ennis who also did Preacher, so
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that explains a lot.
it does. Yeah.
Well, season 2, I mean, I like how you deal with touchy subjects of, like, you obviously know that Homelander really isn't America's hero. He's a douchebag, okay? Also with a lot of insecurities. It's a little creepy, his relationship with Elizabeth Shue, but, you kind of forgive that because Elizabeth Shue still looks fantastic in her 50s. It's a little bit more creepy when she kind of comes back in season 2. Well, completely spoiled that if you've seen the end of season 1.
Because that is right proper creepy.
Right. Because you're looking at her in lingerie like,
and you're going, wait, didn't she get her eyeballs burnt out in season 1? Like, and then
it's a manifestation of her. But you're just
things that make you go,
lingerie and like, okay, this is like that weird incest porn that's just over the top. But damn, Elizabeth Shue still looks good.
With the reveal of who it really is, though, man, talk about things that make you go, blah.
I know. Anyway, I'm going to need Elizabeth Shue in Cobra Kai season 3 to make up for the creepiness. But again, you automatically know that anybody that's that patriotic and blah, 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 and cares about, his marketing and how he looks and everything, he's not going to be a good guy. But here's where I kind of go off the rails with season 2, and this is a bit of a spoiler. Why, again, do we always have to bring it back to world domination, remaking the races? Oh, and by the way, somebody was once a Nazi. Why? I got through the last few episodes, and I'm just expecting them to say Hail Hydra.
Well, but that's kind of a parallel to like what actually happened. Like, I was joking around with the guys at Manhattan Project Brewing because they named their Oktoberfest Von Braun after Werner von Braun, who was the father of NASA and developed the V2 rocket for the Nazis. So I was like, wow, that's going out on a limb. That's a spicy choice. And but they're so that's kind of okay. So basically, what they're doing is tying it into real life, that the soup factory or the soup industry, the superhero industry in this series is, it kind of happened the same way NASA did. We took the scientists from Nazi Germany.
Right. But again, and I don't, if you're looking for, you've heard it in pop culture before, but it is actually a real thing, Operation Paperclip. I mean, the X-Files talked about it a lot. And I get that. I'm not taking away from the fact that we took all the great scientists that were basically a part of the party and, were once Nazis and all them, and they helped reshape the world in the 20th century. But it literally boils down to a chick. Oh yeah, I'm 100 years old. I married one of them, but this is a reason why we realized, his science and the other races are bringing us down. And I'm like, of course it's some Nazi chick that's trying to. And now I'm like, please put these.
It was very gratifying watching her get her ass beat by Maeve Starlight and the Chinese girl, though, or Japanese girl.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. But
even if she wasn't a Nazi, just because she's a bitch.
Off German and, how we're bringing the races down and we're going to remake everything and blah, blah, blah. Please bring in the show Hunters with Al Pacino to where they're hunting down former Nazis that are hiding in the U.S. I like I said, it just, to me, it simplifies the story more and more that it's once a Nazi, we're remaking it, and then.
Well, I think it's gonna get real complicated again because she's in like 6 parts now. So, where did he go?
Sorry, folks. My nose is running, and I didn't want to do it on camera.
Fair enough.
I thought you fell out of your chair.
No. I didn't fall out of my. No. My Evil Lord chair. Yes, this is the most MacGyver thing I've ever done. This is a gaming chair that was too low to the ground. So I bought a portable dolly, took apart a table, put the chair on top of the table, and then bought clamps so it would roll and be higher off the ground. But yes, one of these days I'm just going to dress up as Dr. Evil and have a cat.
But yeah, I think so. So I think it's going to get a whole lot more complicated again with the. I don't think it's just going to be about Nazis and it's just going to be a simple black and white because they turned her into like 6 different pieces, and and with the Huey going to work for the congressman, and I think it's about to get a whole hell of a lot more convoluted.
No, and you're right. I mean, you've opened up a whole can of worms to where obviously you can do more seasons. You didn't really get the ultimate bad guy. And I think you're going to find that it isn't just, Homelander or anything or his, son. There is an evil force behind everything. And that is manipulating all of these people behind the scenes. And, to me, it's kind of leading into the way of, Marvel, Captain America, Civil War, where you're going to have to choose a side. And you're starting to see some of these heroes choose a side. But what is it that's really behind everything? And you kind of get that peak right at the very end of season 2 with who the new master villain is. And again, we're not going to spoil that. You're going to have to get through it and stuff. Julie.
Yeah,
I
Julie.
tried.
Jeez.
But I will say this. I love all the characters. I love the little mixed up Super Friends team. Starlight is actually one of my favorite characters. I mean, it's creepy where she's super Christian and they have the whole "We Are the World," we defend America ridiculous song that keeps playing in the background. But she grew on me as, especially like her and Huey and their weird little relationship. But I got to tell you, I kind of look at Homelander as like a Negan-esque character where I don't know if he is strictly bad. He does horrible things, but maybe there is something more nefarious pulling the strings when it comes to him. And there is one thing that brings him back into the light. It is his son, and I think you're going to start to see that, because obviously there's more villains or soup terrorists out there. So overall, I gave season 2 a 9. It was great, fantastic. Highly recommend The Boys. Although Train's a dick. I'm sorry. That guy could go, and I could care less. But I really did like him as the third generation of the Shaft family in the latest Shaft movie that came out last year. I had a chance to see that on cable, and that was actually really funny.
So as usual, I'm a slightly tougher grade than you. I gave it an 8. But I really enjoyed it. A-Train is a dick. I hope they keep the Deep because he's hilarious. For all the wrong reasons, but he's hilarious. Like he's a terrible person. It's just awful. But it's kind of like I'm laughing at him, not with him. So yeah. But
also, I've got to see this Dawn of the Seven movie that they keep shooting because it's so over the top and ridiculous. It's like, please actually have that movie, if nothing else, for Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God. But I'm very glad for Carl Urban getting a series that has actually lasted one season, because he did that great series on Fox that got canceled after one season.
Yeah, that was actually really good, and I was pissed that they canceled it.
That's like Fox's MO, though.
I know. I mean, you kind of give them you allow them some excuses, like this past year with COVID and everything. But then again, this is Fox. We just hope they show everything in order.
They get nothing from me. Not since Firefly.
Well, you know who's gotten worse than Fox? Fox isn't even so bad about it anymore. It's Sci-Fi and Netflix. Don't get attached if you're watching a show on Sci-Fi or Netflix.
Especially something like the OA that was just so good, and I was like, man, this is going to be so amazing. And then they were like, oh, just kidding, no more.
Right, and then you leave everybody hanging at the end of it. I agree. It's just they had a lot of good programs, and I'm like, why is one program still on Netflix? It's not very good, but we can't get a second season. I thought that Teenage Bounty Hunter series was actually pretty funny.
Well, how about and then they just canceled Alter Carbon. I'm like, really? Like, you guys used to be the place where good shows were saved. Yeah. Now you're the place that's doing the slashing of good shows. That's terrible.
Yeah, well, like you guys can do season 5 of Lucifer, but you can't give us another season of the OA.
Well, I think that's becoming their MO too, is we'll rescue a show that already has fans. We just don't want to develop any new fans. I'm like, look, it's Netflix. You're going to get people watching it.
Well, actually, and I think what they're going to do eventually is, people keep getting hooked on these shows, and then they keep pulling the rug out from under them. There are too many streaming outlets that are putting out too many good things these days.
Yeah.
People are just going to start canceling Netflix, and they already had enough bad publicity with that Cuties movie. So between that and the fact that you keep, I mean, that's just a creepy movie to begin with. But and then you add in all this crap where they just keep coming out with these awesome shows, and we're canceled. Well, people are going to start going to Amazon. They're going to start going to Hulu, so especially because you can get Hulu and Disney Plus for the same price. HBO Max, and you get all the DC stuff. By the way, I've been watching Harley Quinn. That shit's fucking hilarious.
Of course it is. I actually think HBO Max is one of the better values out there with everything.
Probably HBO Max and then the Disney, ESPN, Hulu bundle are probably two of the best values out there.
Yeah,
I was really excited to see there's a really good doc about comic villains on HBO Max, and it's about kind of like the rivalry and how villains are essential in comic books. And I was just so impressed. I was like, wow, like this is something that you should find like on Netflix or you
Right.
know, but it's like buried in HBO, and I think I must have seen that thing like 7 or 8 times
Well,
already.
one thing that I'll always kind of say of Netflix more than anything else is the fact that you can get so many programs from other countries.
Yeah.
As long as you continue to have Australian TV, British TV, one of my all-time favorite shows on Netflix is Rake with Richard Roxburgh, who is this despicable lawyer who, between brothels, gambling debts, you know, literally the very first episode of her series, it has Hugo Weaving in it, and he's a cannibal, and he's defending a cannibal. And, you know, this series leads all the way into where he's going to run for parliament on the platform of, I'm not going to do anything. And he wins. It's like, I've talked to so many people that have gotten into that show because they discovered it on Netflix. And I've got friends that I still kind of talk to, you know, that are in Australia. It's like, oh yeah, it's one of the best shows here. But again, you get such great British TV that you can, you know, shows that you can find. And the same kind of with Amazon. So I think that'll always kind of be there, and there's always going to be something that you're going to find that you can binge watch and, you know, get into. But yeah, they're going to definitely have to. Here's the other thing. How is it you put out 6 seasons of The Ranch with Ashton Kutcher? That show right there is only funny because Sam Elliott is in it.
Yeah.
Not anybody else. Anyway.
It's basically him just playing a ranch version of Sergeant Plumley from We Were Soldiers.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Morning,
All right.
Sergeant Major. How do you know what kind of a goddamn morning it is?
All right, everybody. We're going to get into our theme, but we didn't really quite get a review of the movie Enola Holmes for you, so Julie and I are going to talk about it and why it's a movie that you should check out on Netflix. And it will also lead into the other things we wanted to talk about.
Henry Cavill and how amazingly handsome he is.
That's not what I was going to say, but sure, I'm not going to disagree with that. Okay, so how many of you out there actually know who Enola Holmes is, or have actually heard of Enola Holmes? I admit I did not. Well, it sounded familiar, but I was just like, oh, okay, well, that seems like a cool story that they would have a sister and, you know, she's too smart for her own good and like Sherlock and blah, blah, blah. I thought the movie was cute. I'm not saying it's the greatest of movies or anything. The one thing it definitely left me with is I think it would be a really cool series on Netflix. Like, you know, 8 episodes a season or something like that, where she's doing her own thing, but also helping Sherlock. And, you know, she is the one kind of helping him before he meets Watson. Because I liked Millie Brown in the movie. I thought she did a really good job. Like I said, overall, the story was great. An interesting little plot of, you know, trying to capture a lord who's the deciding vote on whether women are going to get equal rights in England and that kind of thing. But like I said, it was very good. I enjoyed it. Julie, what about you?
I liked it for what it was. It's not my favorite movie. Mostly I was just kind of staring at Henry Cavill a lot. I thought it was cute. Like, I think it's really good for young girls, for like teenagers, adolescents. I think it's more geared to that market, to that audience, and it really shows. That's not to say that it doesn't have anything for you if you're watching it with your kids. You know, you can sit down with your kids and watch it and actually enjoy it. But I think if you're like a grown adult that really wants some Sherlock Holmes type stuff, don't expect it to be Benedict Cumberbatch. I had my coffee today. Don't expect it to be like that Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch, because it's not going to be like that. It's not that complex. It's not that intricate. It doesn't focus that much on the mystery side of things so much as it's Enola trying to find her mom.
Yeah, but it's also her, very much like Sherlock Holmes, and with disguises and foiling plots. My biggest complaint too is you have Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes, and I'm not saying that he would make the best Sherlock Holmes,
Could have
but
been better.
I would definitely like to see him do more if he had more in a script, because there is an intensity with his acting. I mean, I'm not saying that he can't be, comedic or anything. Like, I enjoyed his.
He does have a trademark scowl, though.
Yeah.
Right. I enjoyed his version of Superman. I think he would make an interesting James Bond if they used him to replace Daniel Craig. And we all rave about The Witcher. It's a great series and cannot wait for more.
Yeah.
But you don't have him doing a whole lot in this movie because it is mostly focusing on Enola. Sam Claflin, am I pronouncing that correctly? Who played Mycroft? He is a great actor, but I swear to God, he took his role from the last season of Peaky Blinders, where he messes them and just did the same thing as Mycroft. It's like, I think he filmed that movie right after he did that role. I was like, I don't have to change anything. It's the same person.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it did actually work. But to me, this is much more. You're right about the younger audiences. It isn't really geared for 40-year-olds or anything like that. It is for young girls. I felt in a lot of ways I was also kind of watching like the Little Women movie that was funny, and that's fine. You know what your audience is. But mothers, daughters, a great little family movie.
Yeah.
Actually, Allison was talking about that when they watched it, and she watched it with her oldest daughter, Sid, who, by the way, is named after Sydney from Alias. Anyway, I always like to bring that up because she named her children after great characters from movies. But anyway, it doesn't have to be an overall great movie. It's not going to shake the world, when it comes to a Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah.
But it's cute in what it is.
Exactly.
And I definitely think it kind of warrants a sequel or Netflix. It's not a movie that I would go and pay to see in the theater, but I absolutely loved it on streaming service.
Yeah, if they did a sequel, I would definitely check it out. I thought that it was okay. I didn't think it was horrible.
No,
and I didn't think it was like the best movie ever. But
I
would check
give it a 7. I mean, it's not going to get anything above that for me. It was okay,
7.
funny, and I enjoyed it, and I may watch it again one day. There are some original Netflix movies that I've gone back and watched multiple times. Like, I think my favorite is The Highwaymen, about the guys who track down violence.
Yes, that one is so
good.
Yeah, they did a good job on that one.
Yeah, I got to a very early press screening of that one, and literally, they had like 3 press screenings for it, and I went to 2 of them. They're like, "You already saw this movie?" Yeah, but I want to see it again before it comes to Netflix, because it was great.
It is really good.
But again, Enola Holmes is cute. If you're looking for a good family movie, check it out.
Yeah.
And if that's kind of your first introduction into Sherlock Holmes, well, okay. But you definitely should check out more.
Considering the Jeremy Brett
version
of Sherlock Holmes is also on Amazon Prime, as well as, you can find the Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch on Netflix, and so.
Well, was that a slip, or did you do that on purpose?
That was a slip.
God, his name is so difficult.
Kind of reminds me of Eddie Izzard's bit about how they come up with the name Engelbert Humperdinck. Like, how do you come up with that name? It's not his given name. That's a stage name. It's like, what are they? We're spitballing stuff like Stumpty Bump, Battle Ram, or something like. He goes like off on like 6 different ones, and he's like, oh, Engelbert Humperdinck. That's it.
I love the
anyway,
Star Wars canteen bit. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Jeff Vader.
Like, you need a tray. I do not need a tray. I'm the Dark Lord of the Sith. Yes, you need a tray, sir. I do not need a tray. I can crush your mind with my thoughts. You need a tray. The food's quite hot. Oh, the food is hot. My apologies.
Yeah.
I think one day we're going to have to do a podcast just on
Baron
Eddie
von
Izzard.
Beta-Hammer?
Yeah.
So anyway, Enola Holmes is great to check out on Netflix. It's the perfect Netflix movie. Probably not one to see in the theater. Julie and I both give it a 7. It's not completely disappointing or anything like that. But again, you need more Henry Cavill. And
Yes.
that's why I say, I mean, if you had like a series of 4 to 6 episodes with something like this, I think that'd be great.
He's not even really Sherlock Holmes in the show so much as he's just like a brother that happens to notice things occasionally. To me,
Right.
if you're going to write him as Sherlock Holmes, and I think he would be a decent Sherlock, then give him more Sherlock type things to do instead of just being a brother that's like, oh, there was a loose string on the hem of her dress. Like, so?
So
Yeah.
just random thought here popped across my Facebook feed. You can get a fat Thor costume for Halloween. And I kind of want to do this because I'm a big guy. But here's my thought. Why is it even available in a medium? Like, Thor is a big dude before he got fat. Like,
Right. That's kind of interesting. I never really thought about that.
so yeah.
All right. So as we're talking about Sherlock Holmes, we've had classic movies, modern day adaptations of it, and we've had doctors who are basically Sherlock Holmes. And I just want to quickly point out, because I'm going to bring these 2 characters together. Obviously, if you like Sherlock Holmes, you've watched Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock.
Mm-hmm.
Great series. We want to do more. You can't just leave it at 4 seasons. I like how each episode is basically a movie. Fantastic. But when I talk about doctors being Sherlock Holmes, one of the greatest TV characters ever, Gregory House. Yes, with Hugh Lowry. And the reason this is kind of fascinating is, did you know that you've had 2 versions of Sherlock Holmes share the same screen together? So here's what happened. Before House became a series in 2004 on Fox, Hugh Lowry had a 6-episode series on the BBC that only lasted 1 season, 6 episodes, called 40-something. And he was a 40-year-old. He was a doctor who had just kind of like, was in his 40s and dealing with life. His wife wanted to go back to work finally after raising kids. They had 2 children, a young teenage son, and then a college-age son. And guess who played the college-age son? That's right, Benedict Cumberbatch, who, slept around, got drunk, kind of partied, and would get caught, having a girlfriend, because he's in college, still living at home, having a girl there where the younger brother fantasizes about, and then has a moment with Hugh Lowry where it's just this weird storyline like, oh my God, could we all be banging the same girl? But yes, they did share screen time together. It was a brilliant little 6 episodes. But if that show had not been canceled, Hugh Lowry might not have been Gregory House. So there you go. But anyway, yeah, the House TV series, which is on Amazon, fantastic. If you wanted to put Sherlock Holmes in a medical drama, that's basically it. And he, is kind of a jerk. And Sean, I forget the actor's name, who played Wilson, was the perfect John Watson-esque type of character.
Sean Robert Leonard.
Thank you. I always forget him. I've always wanted to say Sean from Dead Poet Society. Anyway, so let's talk about our favorite adaptations. I make jokes about The Great Mouse Detective. It is one of the best animated movies from Disney. But Sherlock Holmes has been around for quite a while, considering these books are over 100 years old. Brendan, what is your favorite adaptation of Sherlock Holmes?
Oof. That's a tough one. As much as I like some of the newer stuff, I'd probably go with more of the older stuff. Jeremy Brett's adaptation, and then my second favorite would be probably the old black and white ones with Basil Rathbone from like the 1930s.
Yeah.
And then after that, of the newer ones, I don't know. I guess my favorite one is probably Sherlock, just because I think Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch have a really good chemistry between them. But yeah,
I kind of go with you on that. I mean, the Jeremy Brett ones from the 80s. I mean, you think about like great British TV and dramatic series where, you have that, and then you have the Perot series that was on forever. And you really had, and again, it takes you back to, the Victorian era more than anything else. I think the biggest thing about the modern version of it is like, can you put Sherlock Holmes in a modern setting with technology and still allow him to be Sherlock Holmes? And yeah, they perfectly did it, because he doesn't like to talk on the phone. He texts. And literally that very first episode, when they're doing the news conference and everybody, including the reporters, gets a text message, "You're wrong." It does it, like I said, it does it wonderfully. But I mean, you're talking about movies that have gone back a long, long time. Julie, how about you? I mean, which version would you take more than anything else for Sherlock Holmes?
I think if we're including House, that's the version I would go with. I really love that show, and I think it's definitely some really great detective work.
It's my favorite medical drama. Don't disagree with you on that. And I pretty much hate doctor shows. In fact, my best friend that I grew up with, I had never seen an episode. Sort of heard about it or whatever, and he texted me one day. It was about 10 years ago, and he's like, "Hey, you should check out this show, House. You should start renting it." I'm like, "Why?" "Well, he's a bit of an asshole and thinks he's right. It's kind of you." Yeah, and we were at the time doing our political podcast.
It's amusing how accurate that is.
Yeah, I know. Well, and it was funny because we had a very heated debate at the political podcast that we had at the time, where I was the liberal and he was the conservative, and we used to be debate partners in high school. And I could be a bit of an asshole when I thought I was right. I was out to make the other team cry and you're just wrong and you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, that's a compliment, I guess. But yeah, so
I really like too that's it. The show started from, there was a section in the New York Times where they would talk about these obscure diseases and where they came from and what caused them. And that's
right.
What spurred the show. And I was like, wow, so everything that's on the show is a real disease.
Yeah, it really does happen. Yeah. I also like the fact that Hugh Lowry's father is a real life doctor and would help consult.
And he's such a great actor. He really is. I love him as an actor.
Oh, I agree. So I probably like the modern day version better, just because I think it's so well done.
Henry Cavill. It's his butt, right? Me too.
Well, again, I've always thought Sherlock Holmes should always be set in the Victorian era. I'm one of those sticklers that you stick with the original source material. Let's not get crazy and reimagine and blah, blah, blah. That's probably the writer in me. But when they did it, and I watched basically the first couple of episodes, I was like, okay, I'm down for this. They're really good. And the one that really truly drew me in is the very first episode of season 2 where they introduce Irene Adler, and she's a dominatrix. I was like, okay. And just the ringtone of the girl. And yes, I do have that downloaded. I like the dynamic between the characters, but I'm going to give you one that most people do not realize, and it's actually it's a series from the '60s where Peter Cushing, and if you're a nerd, you know who Peter Cushing is, Grand Moff Tarkin. He played Sherlock Holmes in a series for about 4 years, along with another great British actor, Nigel Stock, who played Watson. Ran on the BBC. Now, imagine Peter Cushing, who, great British actor, very much in his own right, like Alec Guinness, stern, serious, kind of comedic and all that. Think about it. Would he not have made a great Sherlock Holmes set in the Victorian era? But anyway, I agree with you, Brendan, about Jeremy Brett. I think that's a great series set in the 80s and stuff like that. But for
if you're looking for a pretty good one-off, Christopher Lee has a pretty good one-off take on Sherlock. I believe it was Hound of the Baskervilles. So,
yes.
But
You
that
had
if
me
you're
at Christopher Lee.
well, Christopher Lee's a badass. I mean, the guy.
Yeah.
When Peter Jackson asked him to imagine the sound one makes when one is being stabbed in the back, and he looked at him and goes, "I don't have to," because he was SAS in World War II and fought Nazis in Africa, and he was stabbed in the back, and he has stabbed people in the back, and it's like, yeah, I don't have to.
He actually even corrected them and said, "No, it's more of this type of sound."
Yeah.
Right. Another great British actor that
He's so amazing. Yeah.
So, but with that said, I mean, you've gotten great series. You've even gotten like a young Sherlock Holmes series, which was not bad at one time. But I'll bring it around to this. With everything that we've seen, do the Guy Ritchie movies actually hold up to other Sherlock Holmes adaptations?
I'll say
really
this.
Care for them.
No, because, and the reason why is because the other adaptations we're talking about are generally series that have had more time to deal with character development and in the relationship between Holmes and Watson. But for summer popcorn movies that are just a little bit more in depth than your typical summer popcorn movies, yeah, I'd rather go see for example, I'd rather go see a Robert Downey Jr., Guy Ritchie, Sherlock Holmes movie over, let's say, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 4.
Right.
So for what they are, yes. I mean, for what they are, especially the first one, I really enjoyed the first one. The second one was okay, but I like Robert Downey Jr.'s idea. He's trying to he wants Sherlock Holmes 3 to kind of be the jumping off point for a shared universe of a bunch of different Victorian characters. And, I don't know if that would include League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or if it would include, or a whole bunch of other stuff that you could do. But I think that would be a really cool thing. So we'll have to see if anything comes of that idea. I mean, RDJ's got the money and clout to make it happen if anybody does. So,
here's my take on those movies. I don't disagree that the first one is actually, fairly decent. I mean, him and Jude Law, great on-screen chemistry. I don't know if Rachel McAdams really plays a great, Irene Adler.
No, I definitely think the woman they got in Sherlock was better. She had much more of a
Laura Purville. Absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, she that first episode where she answers the door naked. Yeah, she stopped, and they don't even show anything, but it's just she has the
Right.
guts to do it, and by undressing herself, she completely undressed Sherlock.
Right. And it works. It works well for what that is.
Yeah.
Now, uh, I don't know if you actually need a third movie. I just think it's completely unnecessary. I mean, unless you want to get, to me, it's like Ocean's 13. You're only making the third movie because you want to get all these people back together, and just, it's not going to be very good, but it'll be kind of fun, that thing. I like the second one because I think Jared Harris, who is the son of Richard Harris, played a great Moriarty. And the chess match that they have going back and forth while they're decoding his book, and you have Stephen, why am I drawing a blank on that? Stephen Fry playing Mycroft. It was fun. Not as good, but again, fun. And you have a great cast that play. Again, Jared Harris was great as Moriarty. But
that was kind of funny though, how they kind of flipped that nude scene and had Mycroft come in nude to Watson's wife.
Right. I also like Kelly Riley, who played Mary. And I think most American audiences now know her as the sister or the daughter of that show Yellowstone. With her and her American accent, she's just a cutthroat bitch in that series. So seeing her in her natural British accent, but I mean, they're Guy Ritchie movies. To me, it's the same as if Quentin Tarantino were to make a Sherlock Holmes movie. You know what you're going to get with it, and it's not going to be that in depth. It's going to be explosions, fun, great little lines. That kind of thing. And Robert Downey Jr., again, he plays a good Sherlock Holmes, but this is the difference between a movie and a series. You get to develop more with a series, and you get to see these characters expand, which you clearly do with a modern day version of, with Benedict Cumberbatch. So, but I will ask this: do we rank the show Elementary at all in our talks?
Except for maybe because of Lucy Liu.
I think I liked how they turned it on its head with her with Watson being a woman and all that. And nothing against Johnny Lee Miller. I will not watch the entire series. I just could never get into it. But I thought Johnny Lee Miller played a good version of him. It wasn't bad. Is he Benedict Cumberbatch? No. Not at all.
Only thing I liked about it is there was one episode where Mycroft comes in and tries to convince him to come back to London, and he's like, "What do you even see about the city?" With talking about New York, and he goes, and then he's talking about the importance of New York to the history of the U.S., and he's like, "This is their London."
Right.
That was a good line, but other than that, I tried for a long time to get into it, and I think I managed to keep up with it for 2 seasons, and then I was just done.
No, I couldn't even get through the first season. I mean, I know Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones came in as Irene Adler, and it was like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, I'll stick around anything for Natalie Dormer. So
right, exactly. I mean, gorgeous and all that, but it just, to me, it's the same. You try to Americanize a great British TV show, and it's great that you've got a good British actor to be Sherlock Holmes. You didn't try to have an American actor pull it off. I applaud you for that, but I just, compared to what you have, it's a B movie compared to something great. And the fact that you tried to keep it going for 6 seasons, you have all these, and you're trying to make it like a cop procedural show, and you have your writing's going to get stale after 20 episodes a season. So you might have some stuff here and there. But again, I don't take anything away from Johnny Miller. I think he's a good actor. I've enjoyed him. Brendan and I went to go see the press screening for the sequel to I'm drawing a blank. Train Spotting.
Oh yeah.
And we had a good time at that. We went and got pints afterwards and couldn't stop laughing. They did it, and Johnny Lynn Miller and Ewan McGregor were great again. Also kind of makes me want, you know what? We need a modern day version, a sequel to Hackers. But it just isn't going to be as good as what we've had. So I personally don't throw it into the same category. I don't think it's worth mentioning. I think it's just something they tried to make for an American audience that's never going to be as good. And most people I know have gotten into the Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch anyway, and eagerly, wait for more. So,
if they ever get around to doing it, since they're both so damn busy now.
Right, and it doesn't look likely, but all right. So there's one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I got to look this up because I want to make sure that I have the correct name. There's one thing that has never been talked about. I don't even know if we actually got a review of it, and I wanted to talk about it because if you get a chance to see it, okay. In 2015, Ian McKellen did a movie called Mr. Holmes. The story was an aging Sherlock Holmes who had memory problems, and he was being taken care of by a widower and her son, and of course he kept bees, and so you're talking about. Think about Sherlock Holmes dealing with dementia, okay, and his last case was never truly solved, so he's trying to relive it and retell that story, and ends up solving it. And this is past all the novels coming out. Watson is long gone. Incredible movie. I think Ian McKellen did a fantastic older Sherlock Holmes. Would have been great to see him as Sherlock in his younger days, but this is Ian McKellen. I mean, has Ian McKellen ever made a bad movie?
No.
I'm sure he probably has. I can look it up. I mean, he probably wasn't bad in it, but I'm sure he's been in a shitty. Well, actually, yes, he has. He's been in some of the X-Men movies that sucked.
Well, X-Men 3. Okay. Well,
they weren't as horrible as they could have been, or as some other movies. They were still all better than Hellboy.
X-Men 3 wasn't the last Fantastic Four movie, which should have never even been real. And the fact that it's even on Disney Plus and they want to call it a legacy movie, like, ugh. But no, I mean, how do you deal with a Sherlock Holmes that has dementia and trying to resolve his last case that never got solved?
You give him a magnetic-proof helmet, and you just keep him happy, Marcus. That's the best you can do.
Fair enough. But if you've never seen this movie, I encourage you to go find it. It's one of the, to me, it's a great epilogue of Sherlock Holmes. He's always going to be thinking and solving crimes and reliving things in some way. And that's how this man would find peace. So the flashbacks and everything that involved his last case, just an incredible. So I throw Ian McKellen in there in that movie as one of the best for an older Sherlock Holmes type thing. So, all right, one final go around, and we're going to wrap this up. Who has played the best version of Sherlock Holmes? Brendan, do you go with Jeremy Brett?
Yeah.
Okay. Julie?
Yeah, I'm sticking with House.
Okay. And I'm going to go with Benedict Cumberbatch. I am. It's an easy answer, but I just think he's fantastic.
You're the only one that's managed to say his last name correctly, so.
By the way, Sir Ian McKellen was in Last Action Hero. He was deaf.
And I'm sure
God, he was in that.
Oscar-worthy
Wow.
Oscar-worthy performance.
Wow.
There you go.
You know, speaking of
That's the
Ian
worst
McKellen,
movie he's been in that I've seen. Put it that way.
speaking of Ian McKellen, I think it's on HBO Max. I did the press screening last year of The Good Liar with him and Helen Mirren, where Ian McKellen is basically a grifter, grifts people out of their retirement and money. And it's a great cat and mouse game with Helen Mirren. I know. But the back and forth and twist and stuff like that, and the way that it ends, you still feel sympathetic for his character. But Helen Mirren absolutely rocked in it, and I encourage people go check that out. It was one of my little hidden gems with a great, fantastic British cast of last year. So, all right, everybody, we're going to wrap this up. We will be back next week. We'd love to hear your thoughts about your favorite version of Sherlock Holmes. I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it if there are more stuff to come out, and of course, we eagerly await. Maybe we'll get that season 5 at some point. One can hope, if Netflix is just going to keep canceling everything. But anyway.
Well, thankfully, Netflix can't cancel it. It's a BBC production.
I know, but they can take it off Netflix if they want, like they did.
Well, then it'll just end up on BritBox on Amazon Prime.
I know, with all the streaming services that we have to keep up with.
Yep.
But with that said, we're going to close this out. And like I said, we'll be back next week. Tweet us out your thoughts about The Boys, Utopia, Enola Holmes. We'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, everybody. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.